The Prime Minister refers to the long overdue economic crime bill, which, to be clear, we support and will vote through on Monday with speed. The key plank to that bill is a register of who truly owns property in the United Kingdom.
Keir Starmer, the leader of the opposition.
But it doesn't come into force for existing owners like Shuvalov until 18 months after the bill passes. At best, that's autumn 2023. Far too long for the Ukrainian people. Why are we giving Putin's cronies 18 months to quietly launder their money out of the UK property market and into another safe haven?
Directly calling out Boris Johnson and the Conservative Tory party for the cover they have provided.
Mr. Speaker, the impact of what the UK is doing and the impact of and I think the whole House should be proud of what we have done because we have led the way on this.
Let's be crystal clear about this. Boris Johnson has acted in one way publicly while giving his billionaire Russian donors ample time and provided cover for them. All of this begins with the world of sports, of course. The billionaire owner of Chelsea Football Club is Roman Abramovich.
You're talking about more sanctions, Prime Minister, but Roman Abramovich is not sanctioned. He's in London. His children are not in the bombardments. His children are there in London. Putin's children are in Netherlands, in Germany, in mansions. Where are all these mansions seized? I don't see that. I see that my family members, that my team members are saying that we are crying.
This is Ukrainian journalist Daria Kalynuk speaking from the heart, confronting Boris on his lack of action.
In relation to Mr. Abramovich, as part of HMG's Russia strategy aimed at targeting illicit finance and malign activity, Abramovich remains of interest to HMG due to his links to the Russian state and his public association with corrupt activity and practices.
As you saw in a recent piece of ours, Labour MP Chris Bryant read of a leaked 2019 Home Office document that show Abramovich used his fortune for political influence. At the time, he said Abramovich shouldn't own Chelsea. Johnson, who lectured the opposition of his sanctions, claimed he had placed sanctions on Abramovich, which was a surprise to Bryant, who objected and called out the Prime Minister. After receiving backlash, a Johnson staffer later claimed the record would be corrected. After seeing the BS, Starmer asked Boris of Abramovich, well, why on earth isn't he facing sanctions? In response, Johnson said he could not go into details on specific cases. He then pivoted back to the sanctions, which, to be clear, is Johnson, the Prime Minister, appearing to provide serious cover for Russian oligarchs and buying them time through tongue-in-cheek rhetoric. The Washington Post wrote Abramovich has serious influence in Moscow with connections to Russian dictator Vladimir Putin. The connection has been there, as Sarah Kenzier's book famously proclaims, hiding in plain sight. Via PBS, Abramovich came up through the ranks with help from oil magnate Boris Berezovsky, who introduced him to ex-Russian President Boris Yeltsin's inner circle. He joined the board of directors for Sibneft in 1996. Berezovsky's most prized oil holding, and was later put in charge of the company's Moscow offices. Here's the important part. After Berezovsky fell out of favor with the new Putin regime, Abramovich took over his patron's oil assets and the country's largest television network. When this occurred, Abramovich emerged as an oligarch in his own right. Business opponents accused him of ruthless dealing, and he was once investigated by the authorities, but cleared. Allegations of wrongdoing have never stuck. The Guardian's David Smith wrote in 2006, how and why has Abramovich retained the patronage of President Vladimir Putin while other businessmen were exiled or jailed? In this interview, Smith notes Abramovich sat in a varnished boardroom in the office of his finance company, a short walk from Red Square. At the back of the room is a small picture of Putin. The conversation turned to Alexander Litvinenko, a former Russian spy who took exile in Britain and became a Putin critic. 1 week before he was set to testify before a Spanish prosecutor on the Russian mafia's connections, he was poisoned. The Kremlin denied any involvement in his death, while the two who stood trial accused Litvinenko of poisoning himself. Critics disagreed. Abramovich, after being relaxed and open about Chelsea Football Club, changed his tune. He claimed to have no opinion on the matter and expressed his faith in detectives to solve it. The writer adds he will not join criticism of Putin, despite growing fears about the direction of a country where journalists have been murdered, suspects tortured in police custody, and business corruption is rife. In my personal opinion, Russia is no less democratic than it used to be, was his artful comment. Was it ever democratic? It is a democratic country. It is democratic enough. Abramovich might appear to be the Kremlin's favorite oligarch, wrote Smith. The reason for Abramovich and other Russian oligarchs' success and influence is Britain's Golden Visas program that offered residency to foreigners pledging to invest at least £2 million upon arrival, a program the government concluded was rife with fraud and shut down. In their report, a parliamentary intelligence committee in 2020 concluded the UK welcomed Russian money and few questions, if any, were asked about provenance of this considerable wealth. What is now clear is that it was in fact counterproductive in that it offered ideal mechanisms by which illicit finance could be recycled through what has been referred to as the London laundromat. The money was also invested in extending patronage and building influence across a wide sphere of the British establishment. PR firms, charities, political interests, academia, and cultural institutions were all willing beneficiaries of Russian money, contributing to a reputation laundering process. Just as Labour MP Bryant stated with Abramovich, using dirty money to sway politicians and inflicting political influence. As we have gone over previously in an extensive piece, Boris Johnson and the Tories are a party that are bought with Russian money. Lyubov Shermukin, the wife of a former minister in Vladimir Putin's government, is a heavy hitter financially and meets with politicians every single month. And yet, when Johnson was confronted with Shermukin's £2 million donation, asked by Labour MP Bill Esterson if he would donate the amount to Ukrainian causes with that money, and I quote, "This is an opportunity for the Conservative Party and for the Prime Minister to end the suspicion of conflicts of interest with Putin while showing solidarity with the Ukrainian people." Boris folded, of course, as he always does, saying it is absolutely vital if we are to have a successful outcome in what we are trying to do, collectively united with Ukraine, that we demonstrate that this is not about the Russian people, this is about the Putin regime. Alexei Navalny, who many know by now as the most polarizing dissident to the Putin regime, who was poisoned and nearly died, gave a list of names on a proposed sanctions list. Lo and behold, he wrote, Roman Abramovich, one of the key enablers and beneficiaries of Russian kleptocracy with significant ties/assets in the West. Another public link of Abramovich to Putin is, after Abramovich defeated Boris Berezovsky in a 2012 civil court case in London, the High Court judge, Mrs. Justice Gloucester, observed that Abramovich had very good relations with Putin and privileged access to him. Because of Boris buying the oligarchs' time, Abramovich is now having a fire sale, selling his palaces in London, which begs the question, why? The answer is fairly simple. Money rules politics.